Good afternoon, and you're very welcome to this afternoon's session on how 3D is transforming the work of local authorities. My name is Bernard Gohan. I'm the Assistant Head of Information Systems with South Dublin. This is the first ever event in Smart Dublin's new regional webinar series for staff across the 4 Dublin local authorities. This series will showcase new and emerging technologies and how these developments are impacting our work as local authority staff. Today's webinar's theme is physical to virtual, so how 3D is transforming the work of local authorities. And today we're going to hear from Alan Murphy, who's the Smart Dublin Regional Manager, Conor Dowling, who's the Programme Manager at Dún Laoghaire Smart Sandyford Programme, Aisling Holland, Digital Strategy Manager at Fingal, Stephen Willoughby, who's Senior Executive Planner at South Dublin, and Veronica Sissoko, who's the Smart City Graduate Engineer in Dublin City Council. Can I just ask you to please use comments and questions in the Q&A window as you'll see in the right-hand panel. There'll be time for questions at the very end, and please note that this is recorded and it will be shared available to all attendees afterwards. For now, I'll happily hand over to Alan, who's going to take you through the initial slide deck. Thank you.
Hey, Bernard, do you want to move on to the first slide, if that's okay?
There you go, Alan.
Hi. Thanks. First of all, a big thank you to Dublin for hosting this webinar. A quick intro to Smart Dublin. Hopefully, some of you know about us or heard about us. We're an initiative of the 4 Dublin local authorities, and our remit is to engage with technology providers, researchers, and citizens to address urban challenges and improve quality of life. Our 4 key objectives are in the Venn diagram there you see on the right hand side, and for sure over the next hour you're going to hear about innovative solutions that'll deliver and provide better services, and you'll hear about, well, how do we go about doing these kind of projects. It's definitely through collaboration and engagement, so definitely we're touching on those 3 main objectives of what Smart Dublin is all about. If you move on, Bernard. Okay, so this is the first of a series of regional webinars that we're going to do during the year. So just to give you a snapshot of the objectives of this series, it's a combined invitation to all staff of the 4 Dublin local authorities. So we have attendees from all 4 councils with us for the next hour. The main objectives are 1, to raise awareness of how emerging technology is being used by each of the DLAs, and I highlight is being used. So what you're going to hear is stories about real projects that are happening in each of the 4 councils. To hear these stories is trying to deliver 2 main objectives. Within each council, whatever's going on in South Dublin, whatever's going on in Dún Laoghaire, we want to promote further usage of that application or usage of this emerging technology within that council. But then also, if someone is attending here from Fingal and they see something is happening in Dún Laoghaire, well, then there's an opportunity to reuse or apply the same use case in Fingal and learn from another council. So all about raising awareness across the 4 councils as to what's going on with the particular emerging technology. And then also some of the stories you'll hear today are quite specific, but then there's an opportunity to use the same emerging technology for your own service area. So you might be in a different section or different department, but you might be thinking how this technology could be used for your own service area. So please wear that hat as you're listening to the speakers over the next hour. Okay, and then just to highlight the schedule that we hope to deliver this year. So here we are in April talking about physical to virtual and 3D models and digital twins, etc. In July, we're going to look at the Internet of Things and how that technology is being used to deliver a variety of local authority services. In October, we will look to drones. Same idea. How are drones being used to deliver a variety of local authority services? And then to December, we look at digital smart citizenship and how that technology can be used by all 4 local authorities to enhance and deepen citizen engagement. So that's the schedule ahead of us, and we're going to kick off with the April topic. So Bernard, back to you again.
Thank you very much, Alan. And we'll hand over to Conor Dowling, who's with the Smart Sandyford programme.
Great stuff. Thanks, Bernard. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to Bernard for hosting. My name's Conor. I'm the Smart Sandyford Programme Manager, and I'm excited to be showcasing 2 digital twin-based projects that we have starting this year. Next slide, please. To start, I'm going to give a quick introduction to the district programme and just elaborate a little bit on what Alan said about how we work. I'll explain what digital twins are and how they can play a role in the district programme and for local government generally. Finally, then I'll give some detail on our 2 recently won EU projects, Precinct and Score, which will kind of give an idea of how digital twins can be used in real terms and what exactly they're going to do for Dún Laoghaire, and which can be transferred to the other councils. So for those of you who aren't aware, Smart Sandyford is the Dún Laoghaire district. So we're all about collaboration between research with the local council and with the local businesses and bringing in the citizens themselves. So that kind of multi-stakeholder approach, working together to address major challenges, kind of fits in with the digital twin aspect of things, where you're bringing multiple previously siloed technologies and data sources all together in one sort of readable space. Next slide, please. So while the testbed is in Sandyford, we work on a county-wide basis and look at county-wide challenges. In this case, the 2 projects are primarily looking at coastal issues, but obviously we work across the different departments in Dún Laoghaire. Just to highlight that point. Slide, please. So what are digital twins? To put it simply, digital twins are a virtual representation of how a system operates. The first digital twins were designed by NASA to represent engine parts. Rather than just having a schematic or model, they used these digital virtual representations of the system. And in this case, it was an engine where they could virtually adjust and sort of tinker with the system before making those changes in real time where the parts were so valuable. So more than a blueprint or plan, the twin allows decision makers to understand all of the system's key elements and the dynamics in between them. In the diagram there in the slide, you can see we have the engineering, the operations, and the data, which would traditionally have been in siloed different departments. And here they're being brought together in one place. And so when it's done correctly, the digital twin will change the engineering design, build, and operations of the system and give the decision maker a key overview of everything within the system. Next slide, please. So where are digital twins now? Digital twins have developed, as I mentioned, from early engines. They're now full-scale planes and rockets, entire buildings. A lot of infrastructure management systems are using them to analyze their buildings and how they interact, how people interact with them. And now we're looking at sort of applying them to larger systems like towns and cities. So the issue there is the larger the system that's being analyzed, the more complex and the more variables you're adding, that unless the twin is an accurate representation of the thing that you're trying to analyze, it loses its value very quickly because it's not realistic. So the more data that's required to make the twin usable it makes it an accurate representation of the system. In Dublin, we take it for granted that we have so many top-class universities and technical institutions and the benefits that can bring for the councils. So through FP7, EU H2020 and Green Deal projects, we're going to be able to work between the council using the on-the-ground knowledge and the data sets we have with the researchers who are experts in these areas to develop these digital twins and make them as accurate as possible. The 2 projects, first on this slide, Precinct, that we're talking about, explains how that could work at a very high level. In essence, we're going to be using the twin to understand and make an understanding of the high level data and the dynamics that are at play within our systems. In this case, the digital twin will allow Dún Laoghaire to understand the transport infrastructure in the county, which we can then dynamically recalibrate to enhance its resilience going forward. Next slide, please. So the SCORE project is probably a little bit more close to my heart, as you know, it's in the area of resilience, but It's it comes back to Dublin's it's a Viking city built on the Liffey Delta. Flooding is becoming, we all know, flooding is becoming a big pressing issue in Dublin. In Dún Laoghaire, the Dart line is an obvious risk. Through SCORE, we're going to develop a co-warning socioeconomic assessment, mapping the baseline exposure of the coastline, and the digital twin analysis is going to incorporate coastal flood sensor deployment and give real-time data that we can use and look at using all our data sets from the council, from the DART, from these sensors, and bring it all together in one place where we can get that real-time picture and then evaluate what we should be doing to sort of protect the DART and protect the coast. Just to give you a little bit more of a visualization, this slide shows that, or highlights again, the value of the twin is really only realized when you have a realistic representation of the system. In this case, we're looking at how an ecosystem-based adaptation of nature-based solutions, talking about Booterstown Marsh and around Dalkey Island, can enhance resilience, but looking at how that can be done within this digital system and incorporated with the coastline is what the digital twin is all about. Slide, please. So to find out more, to get in touch about these or the other projects that we have going on, please email me. And thank you very much. I'll pass you over to Aisling Hyland from Fingal now next.
Thanks, Connor. Yes, so as Connor said there, my name is Aisling Hyland and I'm Digital Strategy Manager for Fingal County Council. And today I'm going to showcase the Balbriggan 3D model, which we've just actually launched today. I'll explain a bit about the background to the project and its development. So next slide there, Bernard. So first of all, why Balbriggan? I suppose there are significant public realm improvements planned for Balbriggan over the next 5+ years, and the 3D model will help to bring these plans to life. The model, like Connor was saying, is a visual tool which will help citizens visualise the planned transformations of the town outlined in the Balbriggan rejuvenation plan. And just before that slide, I was just going to say that last year we applied for funding to develop this model under the Public Service Innovation Fund to develop the model to enhance citizen engagement. So that's kind of the core aim of the Balbriggan model that we've developed. And we've been working with Galway-based company RealSim to develop it. Essentially what we've developed now is 3 interactive platforms that we can view the model from. So the first there is the web viewer, and that's built really for the citizen in mind, so really for citizen engagement. It's kind of similar to the likes of a Google Maps interface. It uses quite simple commands, the way you move around the screen, the way you can move around the streets. It's quite similar to, you know, what everyone would be used to from Google Maps, and has simple functionality, like if you double click on something, you're brought to that area. And I can circulate a link to the web viewer in the chat function and the Q&A function after my talk, but there's, I suppose, lots that can be done through the web viewer, and I've been told that it's one of the first of its kind in Ireland to actually display a model where somebody can interact with it through their mobile device or phone and computer. So that's, I suppose, that's the main functionality from the citizen's point of view. And the other way to view is through the desktop viewer. This is really designed for council staff in mind, so it's got a lot more functionality than the web viewer. It would require, I suppose, a higher spec PC to view it. You'll be able to use, it's primarily for planners and architects to be able to use the model, interact with it, use the build tool. So it's, again, it's a simple design, and you're able to select a build tool and create an object or a building. There's also a sundial tool. So for instance, you'd be able to see what that building would look like and perform shadow analysis and see what it looks like, let's say in December. And then the other way to visualize the Balbriggan model is through a VR headset. So the model is virtual reality ready. Originally, we had planned to, use this model at citizen engagement events when we'd be able to, go out to schools or showcase it at workshops, whatever, and bring a VR headset with us. So at the moment, we can't obviously do that now, but in the future, people will be able to view the model in that way. Next slide. Yeah, and I suppose to give a bit of background to the data of the model, it's like it is a digital twin. It's an actual representation of Balbriggan. It was created using aerial survey photography and ground level photo surveys as well. Those slides just show the terrain model, and if you click on and the surface model, so you'll see the way the surface has changed there, and that's the aerial as well. So we've used quite up-to-date aerial survey photography. And next slide. So that was the mapping, and now to the modeling. So there's, I suppose, 3 different levels of modeling. This level 1 is kind of your base level for the model. It's that one that we just saw was like real blocky and not much content, not much detail. And I suppose in the outskirts of Balbriggan, where we're not showcasing one of the rejuvenation planned developments, the structures would look like this. They're accurate levels, and the size is accurate for the digital twin, but the detail isn't. It's more blocky textured. It's not enhanced detail. The level 2 is a little bit further enhanced. It's got the addition of 2D photography layered on top. So again, it's a flat image layered on that block image that we just seen, and then the kind of more enhanced modeling is that level 3. So this is quite a substantial, prominent building in Balbriggan, and you can see like the different depth perception, the way you can see the shadowing, the way you can see the balconies there in that slide. So you get an awful lot more detail. And this really just summarizes the various elements I've just mentioned. So from the baseline aerial data that we just saw to the 3D terrain mapping, that kind of geofenced 3D building textiles or textures, and then the various ways we can view the model. So that's through the desktop and the web viewer and the VR. And I'm just going to share my screen now because we do have a short kind of promo video that showcases the model. So just bear with me 1 second. So you get to see, I suppose, the visuals there from the model. The Arba-Briggen model, the video there that you saw, that was all done through the web viewer. So I suppose that gives you a sense of what it's like. It's kind of been described as a 4D model because with the 4D being future. So the baseline data for the model is all built as a digital twin would be, but we've layered this additional I suppose bit on top, which kind of showcases the way the Arba-Briggen rejuvenation projects will look like, or give a conceptual idea of what they might look like. So just next slide there, please, Bernard. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we've only just launched the model, but we plan to add to it. So as elements of the Balbriggan's rejuvenation plan are completed, as we have more design for some of the buildings, we can add those, we can layer them on top of this model. So we have like a good concrete baseline model. We also we have a number of community engagement webinars over the next couple of weeks and months as part of Smart Balbriggan. So we'll be showcasing the model at those. The model also, I didn't say this earlier, but was created with open source and open data in mind. So the source data of the model will be made available in accessible formats and released as open data on the Fingal Open Data platform. So this data then will be able to be used for the Smart Balbriggan Hackathon event, which is taking place later on this year in June. So we had planned, I think, originally to do lots of VR workshops and showcase the model, you know, with people, transferring these VR headsets, you know, from each other, and then COVID hit. So we kind of reimagined it into this web viewer. So I'll post that, as I said, on the notifications on the Q&A, and thank you all for listening. I'll now hand over to Stephen Willoughby of South Dublin County Council. Thanks.
Thanks, Aisling. Looks like a great project. So I'm just going to discuss the development of the virtual consultation room, which we prepared as part of the review process for the county development plan. So traditional methods, we would normally be required through legislation to kind of carry out consultation with the public, and we do that through kind of face-to-face public meetings at local libraries or community buildings, kind of with display boards. And I suppose the COVID pandemic kind of created a new challenge in trying to adapt to kind of health and safety needs and kind of still fulfill our legislative requirements in that regard. So we kind of looked at kind of what does the consumer want and how do we engage in that process. We'd carried out a process of kind of design thinking and consumer research as part of the review of the development plan and development of a website and the booklet as part of that process. And there was 5 key focus areas which were kind of identified: the vision, an attractive design, kind of well organized, and the visualization of the information that you're displaying, the content, the development of a recognizable brand, the functionality, kind of how would we kind of make sure that something's working quickly and kind of interactive for people with fast load times was key. The usability, access for all age groups, and a consistent approach kind of in terms of layout, that the system was intuitive and was easy to navigate, and the essential capabilities in terms of a virtual consultation room, that it kind of be adaptable to kind of mobile, tablet, desktop friendly, and that kind of the different systems within it kind of linked up quite well with the information that we had. So the options considered, so we're looking at kind of distance library events and public meetings. So we have to look at the logistics of this, the health and safety for the public, health and safety for staff, whether there be any kind of issues with, I suppose, confusion in using a system from the public side, and then what the likely attendance would be. And I suppose in this context, we would have carried out 2 events kind of within a library, where 2 members of the public would have turned up. So we thought it was kind of there was something there to try and engage with the public in a new format. So how do we create this more traditional method of consultation in a safe environment that's easy to access for the public and interactive? And also, I think the key is kind of providing access to the plan making team in a similar format to a face-to-face meeting. So our initial concept development was kind of looking at a 3D design and the creation of a virtual room. So we looked at 3D modeling and kind of the you'd see kind of on different kind of websites the 3D house designs at the moment. So it was that kind of concept that we were starting to kind of look at trying to develop as a room and a function way of consulting with the public. So our initial design kind of process was carried out through SketchUp. One of our technicians in the planning department was able to use that program. So we developed the room that way. We further developed it then using Onscape 3D rendering in order to kind of bring the room to a bit of life and kind of make it more kind of user friendly. And at that stage, we were kind of looking at going, where do we go next, and how do we kind of take this concept and kind of develop it a bit further? So we consulted with Bernard and Davey in our IT section. Basically, we have an idea. This is what we're thinking. Do you think it could work, and how can we make it work? So a collaborative approach was taken kind of to the initial room design, the concept development, the considerations, the options we needed to consider, what were the key functions, the cost. We had a very tight time frame given the legislative requirements and timelines for the review of the development plan, and also the kind of time frame needed to build a room kind of with consultants. So we engaged with Keeper Solutions to develop our concept a bit further. So the key objective was to provide the public with an opportunity to view the key information relating to the county development plan as identified in the issues booklet, and a key part of that was the ability to speak to a planner or one of the plan team and discuss any questions or queries that they had at specified times. So this is kind of just a screenshot of the consultation room. We'll show a video at the end. So the impact of the room, it was available for general public to use. The first consultations were held last year on the 27th of August and the 10th and 24th of September between 5 and 7. The room had a contact system, so you could actually send a voicemail to message one of the plan team during the 8-week consultation process, and one of the plan team would actually get back to you kind of and answer any questions that you had, and then during the live consultation would discuss any kind of issues or queries you had in relation to the plan process. So it increased awareness of the plan and the consultation process. So you can see there kind of through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the development plan website itself, there was a huge number of kind of links, which increased the awareness of the plan making process. And this came through in the next slide. We can see through the number of submissions that we received. So the digital engagement tool enabled the stakeholders and communities to understand proposals, allowing them to provide an informed response and participate in the consultation process. So alongside other consultation methods, we were able to consult with the public and reach a wider audience. And we effectively doubled the number of submissions we received since the last county development plan process review. So the impact on the team. So the team were able to engage with the public when they visited the consultation room in an interactive manner during the live events via Microsoft Teams. And that was carried out either within the office environment or while they were remote working. The users and stakeholders were able to kind of, they were provided the public with an opportunity to view relevant information in video or display board pop-up format, with the ability to contact the team directly. And the development of the consultation room raised awareness of the plan review process and contributed towards an increase in the number of submissions. It has the potential to capture a wider cohort of the South Dublin population during the consultation process. So we found that kind of people with maybe accessibility issues or parents with young families who might not normally be able to attend a public face-to-face event in a library or a community building due to childcare issues, that it would actually provide them the opportunity to engage in the process. So initially it was a response to the COVID pandemic, creating a new innovative way of engaging with the public and communicating with them directly. It has the potential to increase awareness of South Dublin County Council projects. I think there's been 102 kind of listed on our consultation portal. There's 3 open at the moment, and there's different various projects. There's consultation kind of rooms in a similar format being developed. And I think the potential for it to kind of develop kind of 3D virtual walkthroughs and immersive virtual reality experiences is kind of endless, you know, and it kind of create that kind of more engaging kind of process for the public and convenience from their home kind of to communicate with different sections within the councils is huge. And we'll just play the video. I'll just share the screen now for 2 seconds, Bernard. should be coming up now. Is that coming up? So in the when you entered the consultation room, you were just kind of greeted with a welcome message and kind of some details of key dates and kind of how to use the room. There were display boards with different pieces of information, so you could click on a board and it would bring up the information. At the back of the room, there were key dates which set out the kind of the consultation periods for the entire plan process. We had a video link within the room to show you kind of what information was relevant to the county development plan. In the top right hand corner of the screen, we had a direct kind of button for contacting the plan making team. We had a link to the direct link to the consultation portal, which wouldn't normally be kind of available to people, so that as they're actually reading pieces of information, they could actually click on the consultation portal and actually be writing their submission as they're reading information or engaging with a planner. And then we had a survey at the end, just because it was our kind of first virtual consultation room. It was to kind of provide some feedback for us of how people found the experience of using the room, which was helpful for developing further projects. So that was the consultation room. And that's it. I'll hand you over to, thanks very much for your time, and I'll hand you over to Veronica.
Hi, thank you, Stephen. And I think, as you could see, all those different use cases going across the different local authorities in Dublin. I'm going to talk a little bit of the Dublin City Council journey. We have been exploring 3D city models in the past 2 years. So I'm just going to give a walkthrough of what we learned and how we went about. So we first start exploring this 3D modeling and all those digital twin concepts in 2019, when James Cudden, our Smart City program, he saw a lot of excitement on the market from the public sector and also from the private sector, but everyone was talking about and nobody was really like doing anything. So the way that we decided to do was to procure a 3D model of a small area of the Docklands. And then we made that model as an open data, and we promote in May a 3D data hackathon of Dublin. And from that hackathon, we got 2 winners, mainly in the planning case and also in the Dublin Fire Brigade. Can you just change the slides? Okay. So then if you can see on the right side, those were like the 2 winners. The Place Engage was a company that they use AR, where you could visualize a building that wasn't built yet, and easily you could see different options for that area. And at the end, they would just have like a comment box where you could send some feedback back for Dublin City Council. The second winner was Dublin Fire Brigade, and the way that they did was also an AR application for mobile, or where they could do annotations of key features for pre-incident management. That project is really amazing because it evolved. It also got some funding for the public service innovation. And what they are doing at the moment is just using drones, building their own 3D models, doing those annotations and adding all the layers for like planning. And in this way, they can access any of the high-risk buildings in case of an incident, and then they can just have access on mobile phone or on a tablet while they are going to the incidents. Sorry, can you just go back one slide? Yeah, so the other things that we did with that model was adding new projects. One of them was the whitewater rafting project. That video was the first time that we engaged with the public using 3D models, so people could really see how it would look like. And it's very hard to visualize in 3D models or only like pictures. So in that way, we promoted some VR events where people could experience the space and give us more accurate feedback of what they like and what they dislike. And also with the VR experience, our bridge departments, our bridge engineers, they built a Bloodstone bridge. And in this way, they could experience the space and make changes on the pre-design phase of the project after they really experiment the place. So just the next slide, please. So in this one, I just want to show you a little bit of the size of the model on the top image. So it's pretty big. It's more than 2 kilometers square. And we are really having a mix of different levels of detail, as Ashley already mentioned. So some of our buildings are just block models, while other ones, to make easier for people, just overlay the facade so they can really see how it looks like in real. And some of other buildings, we have in total 4. We even have the indoor space. So one of them is the CHQ, and the level of detail comes from the BAME models. And because of this, we can even see what kind of material is the structure. So that's very interesting. Okay, just next slide, please. So that first phase was very amazing. We got very good engagement. We saw those 2 different applications. So mainly was the planning, the Dublin Fire Brigade, and also the engagement with the citizens. But to go further with the planning and engagement, we decided to partnership with Bentley. And the main reason is because the previous model wasn't able to go on a web. So you would need a very powerful laptop, like gaming specifications, to be able to interact with that model. So Bentley, they built a different kind of model that was called a reality mesh. And that reality mesh is basically sticking pictures together instead of building those mass blocks. So in this new platform called Open Cities Planner, it was very interesting because you could embed websites, you could create questionnaires for people, you could embed also like comments, do some very easily like tags, so people could leave comments around the model, and then you could save for each of them to send us like an application or a submission. You could see all the shadow analysis, but there is like still a lot of technical difficulties, especially on data formats that you can import inside of the model or you can export. So it wasn't that straightforward, let's say. So if you move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so then from that engagement piece that we did with Bentley, we are now in some talks to do an integration between this Bentley platform with Microsoft. And the main thing is because it would add a layer of collaboration and integration with our planners. So the way that we would do is you can either go to Open Cities Planner and then contact a planner via Microsoft Teams, so you would be redirected, or you would be able to book a time slot for a one-on-one meeting. Or for the planners, we would have Open Cities Planner inside our Microsoft Teams, that is our corporate software. And in this way, it would be like a closed channel where planners could interact with each other, leave comments, and assign tasks. So it's very easy to use. We still haven't developed this, but we are in early talks of how to do it. So if you just go to the next slide, please. And then the other layer that we are in talks, very early talks, is between Bentley, Microsoft, and Accenture. So in this one, it's moving away from the planning side and more into the IoT side. So what we would like to do is using these 3D models, how we can overlay some IoT real-time data and then start running simulations across the city and trying to understand better how the city is working. So that would go a little bit further to like traffic. We have ArcViolet, flooding, and many other use cases. Another company that we have engaged in the past 2 years is called Graphico, and this company is very interesting because they are from Singapore, and they have very good structure of GIS layers, so they do very good spatial data overlaying on the buildings, and they also manage to mix reality mesh with different palettes of image. So as you can see, like in the temple, because it was like a heritage one, they really capturing very high quality, while the buildings, they can just have like a little bit lower quality, but they were able to slice those buildings and tag in like CCTV, real-time data, and IoT sensors as well. So it's very interesting company, but we haven't really did any like further projects together. The next company is called Digital Urban Place, and this company is an UK-based one. We are in early talks to maybe develop a pilot project with them, and the key thing that is interesting is because they have a SaaS model. So in this way, Dublin City Council would own the data, the 3D model, base layer data, and then we would just pay them to host our model and also pay for accessing some APIs. This company has over 30 years of experience in space, and it's really amazing because they managed to integrate this platform that they have with some simulation softwares that are already being used in the market. So for example, in the traffic, they link it with Vissing, that is one of the most famous ones used by the traffic people for doing traffic control simulations. So I think it's a very interesting new way of doing. It's not just licensing model, and at the same time, we can keep the ownership of our data. That is one of the most valuable things that we have. So if you just go to the next one, please. So the key thing for this company is that they build those APIs for cities. So they have their technical team, and if they don't have yet an API ready to use that we can plug in, so then they can also develop some use case, and those are just some samples that they already have for some UK cities. Just moving to the next company, and the last one I'm going to talk today is the View City. So we just started a pilot project with them 2 weeks ago, and the key thing for them is because they already have a 3D model of the city, and the way that they build is each building is a single object, so you can turn on and turn off. They also did a separate data set for trees that you can also turn on and turn off. So it's very easy to use, it's very user-friendly, but mainly it's focused just for the planning department. So they don't have any other features for air quality, for example. So if you just move to the next slide, please. So in this one, you can just see some of the tools that they built for the planners. Our forest planning team is at the moment just testing those tools. It's easily, you can just color code according to the use of the building. So it's very easy to do the development plans for the city. If you just move a little bit. Can you just give another click? So I mentioned there that they do all those assessments and visual impacts, and one of the features that they have is also like they can place cameras around the city, and then when you insert different buildings, you can just easily see one by one, side by side, what are the difference, and do all those visual impacts assessments. So that's one of the key things for them, and then you can overlay GIS layers for adding air quality or pollution, traffic, all those kind of informations when they are doing some improvements or when they want to agree on new plans. If you just move to the next slide. So just to summarize everything that I was talking today, what we have done those 2 years is just engaging with different platforms. Each of them, they have benefits and some like con sides as well. And I would say that the 4 key features that we have seen is we don't have only one type of model. So we can do either those mass blocks or either the reality mesh. And when you do the mass blocks models, we also have different levels of detail. So that's one of the things that you have to discuss from the beginning. For Dublin model, some of the key things is some of the companies are already here and acting in Dublin, so they already have those models. So that would speed up the process, because one of the time-consuming parts of a new project is just building those models, because they have to do the capture and some times of the year they cannot do it because the trees has all the leaves, so you would lose some of the features or some of the details across the city, so you have just to keep in mind of that. We also saw that the support on web browsers are a key feature if you want to do some engagement piece. And then all the GIS data sets and simulations, some of those platforms are more advanced than others. So it all depends of your use case and what is your needs and also your timelines and budget. So just the next slide, please. So just to summarize, and I think that's valid for all those previous projects as well. My final comments is just testing those platforms. There is no one that can do everything at the moment. What I really saw is that the technology is being evolving and they are maturing. So most of the projects, the companies are very keen to partnership with you and do a co-design process, but then at the same time, you have to be patient because maybe some of the things you want to do is not there yet. They have to be built or developed. There are different aspects that usually people they get confused. BIM, GIS, 3D models, and digital twins are 4 different things. They, of course, interact to each other, but they are things that sometimes people don't really understand what are like the difference. That could be a whole new talk about that. We have multiple potential benefits. As you could see, there are many areas that you could explore and use and be benefited by digital twins and 3D models. Dublin City Council at the moment is just trying to figure out how to procure this kind of solutions and also what would be the most sustainable way to move forward, if would be to building in-house capabilities and skills, or if would be more just a licensing process, or we just hire different companies for doing different parts of the project. And then the main challenge, I would say, it's related to data. So all the integration, interoperability, standards management, those are always like key thing. And if you have like poor quality data, as Connor mentioned, you're gonna get poor results, and usually it's not gonna be really like useful. So thank you. Any questions, just feel free to contact me. Back to Bernard. Thank you.
And thank you very much to all of our speakers this afternoon. I hope everybody found these topics of interest. I certainly found some of them very, very interesting. So thank you very much, everybody, again. Right now, we're able to open the floor for some questions that have been coming in. Aisling, I'll ask you to pose the questions if you don't mind.
Sure. If anybody does have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen for the speakers. We have a few minutes now for questions. One for you, Connor. You spoke about the research partnerships that Dún Laoghaire has. Could you tell us, I suppose, from your own perspective, what you think the real benefits are to the council from engaging with research institutes?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Aisling. I suppose from a Smart Sandyford point of view, it's pretty clear that it's a new way of engaging with people. From a council point of view, sometimes bringing in different stakeholders that wouldn't previously been engaged. So in the Smart Sandyford example, there are a number of different companies who've approached to work with Smart Sandyford as a test bed that hadn't previously worked with the local authority. It also brings the sort of academic rigor to different projects. It gives an unbiased view on different projects, looking at how best to progress outside of maybe the traditional lines of thought or different ways different departments might previously have thought about things. And it also brings a new funding mechanism. So, for example, through Enable, which is one of the Smart Sandyford partners in Trinity, they provide 50-50 funding for a few different research projects with the council, and that can be used for new research staff or for projects with existing Smart Sandyford staff, for example. And I think it brings real value to citizens as well. So through our links with the researchers, we've seen citizen science projects with sensor deployment, which feeds back in and gives us better decision making. But it also engages people a little bit more and highlights the good work the council is doing, which sometimes isn't highlighted, and people aren't aware of all the things that are going on. So I think it's really mutually beneficial for everybody involved. Yep.
Thanks for that, Connor. A question for you now, Stephen. So I suppose that the virtual consultation room was really a critical resource for engaging with the public during lockdown. Do you think that the cultural shift to remote delivery of services like that will be sustained after the current crisis ends?
Yeah, well, I think kind of it's obviously huge benefits we found through the county development plan review process, but it's probably a balanced approach that we need kind of going forward once I suppose things settle down a bit more. I think it does offer opportunities for people to engage that might normally be able to kind of get out, and even times, as I mentioned in the presentation, you know, kind of people with young kids mightn't kind of have the opportunity to get out, or both parents mightn't get the opportunity, or people with accessibility issues. So I think there's kind of a nice balance can be struck, kind of where we might have the virtual side, and also we might run some public events as well, kind of in the local libraries and community buildings for people who mightn't be too kind of tech savvy. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity there to kind of increase awareness, and I think that a balance in both will work well.
Great, thanks for that, Stephen. A question for you, Aisling. So the Balbriggan 3D model is a very recent development. It's fresh in your head. Any key lessons for any of the other local authorities who might be embarking on such a project?
Yeah, well, I suppose from developing this model, we would have researched other models. So I know I looked definitely to the UK. Some of the local authorities in the UK are doing some great work on models for quite some time. I would have engaged with Veronica there in Docklands about their model, the whitewater rafting one. So I suppose that's number one. I suppose research other models and see what sort of one you want to achieve, and then in developing that tender, make sure that you have the fundamentals in place, like that you own the data for the model, and that it can be that it's built on an accessible format and platform, so that you could release it as open data if you wanted to. They'd be the kind of fundamentals, and I suppose planning for forward thinking about it. You know, even if it's just a particular area at the moment you want to reimagine in a 3D environment, you might want to broaden that to include other areas. So to maybe incorporate that into your tender as well, that although you might be only developing one part of a model because you have a certain amount of budget for that, down the line you might be adding to that. So that should always, I suppose, be incorporated into your tender.
And another just quick one for you, Aisling. We've had a question in about hackathons and what are hackathons. I know we've heard a little bit about the 3D hackathon in Dublin City Council, and there's one upcoming in Balbriggan. Would you give us a quick overview of what a hackathon is? Yeah,
I think the word is kind of doesn't really say what it actually is. I suppose you're trying to hack or problem solve a certain theme or topic or idea. So there's a group of people that come together to try and solve this problem, and that's what the whole event is built around. So we're planning one now for Balbriggan, and we've got 3 problem statements, and we'll have groups of people grouped up into teams, and they'll all try and solve those problem statements and come up with ideas and projects. And I suppose we're going to make available the Smart Balbriggan 3D model data to those groups, but we're going to also give lots of other bits of data and information all around Balbriggan and the rejuvenation plan. So it's not just about hacking a model, it's more around citizen engagement and improving. I think the areas are tourism and pride of place, and they're the kind of themes and ideas that we're trying to hack, and we're trying to come up with creative ideas that could potentially maybe be brought into realization. So that's my interpretation of a hackathon. I don't know. Do you have any other ones?
I think that's a great overview of what a hackathon is. We'll jump to you, Veronica, just for our final question before we wrap up. And I think you touched on this just at the end of your presentation, but from your experience working with various 3D models and different platforms, what do you think some of the really important skills and competencies are for local authority staff who want to make the most of these new technologies?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, actually, because at first everyone thinks and gets scared that, oh my God, what should I do if I need to take like a postgrad course in like Bing or GIS? And actually, no. Most of those platforms, they are being designed for being more user-friendly and just to make life simple, more like drag and drop stuff. Of course, there are still a lot of questions that are technical, especially on the survey side, on how to build those 3D models. If you're doing the procurement and the tender process, you really need to go in high detail of what are the different technologies and what are the specifications. That was one of the lessons learned that we got from the Bentley project. We should have like specified better how would be the survey done, because then further in the line we had some issues building our model. But I would say for the end user, it's usually not much more than what you already do. It's more about the culture change and the mindset change. But if you're really the person driving and building the model and specifying, procuring those models, I would say you should just go and talk with like the survey guys, maybe with city architects that know a little bit about BIM models. You can talk with quant surveyors as well. So it all depends of what you want to achieve and what areas to build those platforms you would need to know a little bit more, and just bring all those experts together. So it doesn't need to be the experts in everything. So yeah, collaboration is the key thing.
Thanks for that, Veronica. We are just about hitting 1 o'clock. We're going to hand back to Alan now from Smart Dublin for the final word.
Yeah, wow, gosh, that was a whistle-stop tour through all the amazing work that's happening in the 3D space. So just to recap on the schedule ahead of us, hopefully people have got great insight as to what's happening in our physical to virtual projects. The next one is coming up in July. Again, will be a whistle-stop tour through a lot of the IoT projects we're doing. Onto October, if you're interested in drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, as they're called, please tune into that. And then December is looking at citizen engagement, or digital or smart citizenship. So that should be exciting as well. Big thank you to the speakers, and a big thank you to South Dublin and Bernard and his team to make this a success. As always, for these webinars to run smoothly, there's a lot of Trojan effort goes on behind the scenes from Aisling Lennon and Smart Dublin and Bernard and South Dublin and his colleagues. So that's a wrap. The recording of this webinar will be available for anybody who wants to look back. And if it's planted the seed as to how this emerging technology, 3D models, digital twins, could be used in your service, please reach out to either the person in your council or indeed the person from the other council that might have inspired you to look at this technology. So thanks to everybody for attending, and bye for now.